Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Prapta Sakalana Gurnana Vasa Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Prapta Sakalana Gurnana Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romancha Kampasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shri Vigrara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Niramarjanado Juktasya bhaktamsa niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Truptam Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Dabayara Para Madhurya Leela Guna Rupa Namna Shiradikama Dabayara Para Madhurya Leela Pratikshana Dhanalopasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Ne kunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Vere Joktir Apekshaniya तत्र तिदक्ष अतिबलवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरितेन समस्तशास्त्रे रुक्तस्ततव व्यतैव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रवर्ज प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादा भगवत्प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुतोऽपि जायं स्तुवं तस्य यशत्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्री चरणरविन्दम् नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदान्त नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री चैतन्य Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Chaitanya Nityananda Vibhavari Shesha Aloka Pravisha Nidrachari Uta Jiva Vibhavari Shesha Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishnaya Griva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishnaya Griva Nrsimha Vamana Shimadu Sudana Brajendra Nandana Syama Nrsimha Vamana Putana Gatana Kaitava Shatana Jayoda Sarati Rama Jayoda Sarati Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Haribo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jadavaye Madhavaya Kesavaye Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatara Guna. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna. Jaya Krishna Ram Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram, Jayo Krishna Balaram. Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava, Radha Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadrama, Jaya Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Gaurnita, Jaya Gauranitai, Patita Pavana Gauranitai. नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम बोलो नित्यानंद राम जय नित्यानंद राम नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर परमानंदे हरि बोल जय विष्णु पार परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र शिष्य महाराज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभचर बिना भक्ति विरंत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि समस्त कचर वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गौर्य गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय नाथ गुरु वैष्णवृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्रीद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री नित्यानंद राम सख्य बलदेव की जय श्री नित्यानंद राम सख्य बलभद्र की जय श्री नित्यानंद राम सख्य संकर्षण की जय श्री श्री अनंत गुरु वैष्णवृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु श्रीद्वैत गदाधर शिवसरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री नित्यानंद राम प्रभु की जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमान गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृणावतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधान नम संकीर्तन जग की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहदांग ट्रांसनेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप कृष्ण राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुराधाम की जय गेलोश विशेष राधा नील माधव की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुणा श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन ठाकुर भगवान की जय श्री अयोध्यापुरी धाम की जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय भक्ति सर्वविघ्न विनाशन करुण सिंह भगवान की जय परम करुणा श्री गौर निताय की जय जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा रानी की जय श्री बलराम जू आविर्भाव तिथि महो महोत्सव की जय निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरि बोल all glories to assemble bodies all glories to assemble bodies all glories to assemble bodies all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga Hari Bol
प्रहलाद राधादायिने हिरण्यकशिपुर्वक्षः शीलाटनकानकालाय हितो नशिमा परतो नशिमा जतो यतयामि ततो नशिंग बहेन सिंह हृदयेन सिंह बहेन सिंह हृदयेन सिंह नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे नाकम् अद्भुतसिंहम् दलितलिरन्नकशिपु तनुभृङ्घम् केशवधृत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृत नरहरिरूप जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय नरसिंहदेव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो यही अभिलाषी। राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो यही अभिलाषी। जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंश पूर्ण हो। कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी। मोरा यही अभिलाष कुंज दियो वा। नयने हेरी बो सदा जुगल रूप राशि। ए निवेदन धारो सकीरन गाता करो। सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी। दीन कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा है। श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमी सदा ये न भासी। श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमी सदा ये न भासी। यानी कानी जापा पानी ब्रह्म हत्यादिकानी चा तानी तानी प्राणास्यन्ते प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे। कानी जापा पानी ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ते प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि जपा पानि ब्रह्म हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी. जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी. Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev.
Etadrisitava kripa bhagavanamapi Durudaivam jisisamiha janina anuraga Trinadapi sunichena tarapi sahisnuna Amanina manadena kirtanir sadahari Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitarva jagadishakamaye Mama janmani janmanishware bhavatat bhakti haituki tvaye Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitamam shime bhavam buddho Kripaya pada pankaja ram raya Nanda vichudadaya vadanam gadya vivudaya chira Kulakali sitam vaputa mamakamame bhavishyati Yugayitam nimesena chaksusavam sarvitam Sunvayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me Aslishyava padaratam vinastimam Adarsanam mahato karutu va Atatata va vidatatu lampato Matmananatastu saeva naparha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya success. Glories to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It's the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, considering myself lower than a lookstone on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your holy name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain and in your accents. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy names of the Lord that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. The blasphemy of devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating holy names of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent names of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities of karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Pattanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gurvani Pucharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Dasatarne Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vindam Gaura Bhakta Vindam Gaura Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Nitya Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Gora Hari Bol Nitya Gora Hari Bol
Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol
Shri Balaram Jayanti Ki Jai Nitya Gora Premanandi Hari Bol So today is the appearance day, or Balaram Jayanti, of Lord Balaram. And I'm going to say a few words about him. And today's a day of deep reflection and thought about the mercy of Lord Balaram. Balaram is actually the protector of the devotees. And by his divine grace only, one can approach the Supreme Lord Krishna. And thus, Shri Balaram is the mercy incarnation of the Lord. And he manifests as the spiritual master and the savior of pure devotees. So, in order to approach Krishna, one has to approach him through his devotees, and especially Srimati Radharani and Lord Balaram, who teaches us how to surrender to the Lord by his examples. And he is constantly serving the Lord. Just like we see in the history of Lord Ramachandra, his brother Bharata was always serving Lord Ramachandra. When Bharata had a chance given by his mother of becoming the Lord of the whole universe, or whole Earth planet, and to assume the position of Lord Ramachandra, he refused. And he swore complete allegiance to his brother. He did not listen to his mother, who wanted him to become the king of Ayodhya. And in the 14 years of exile of the Lord, or Lord Ramachandra, he lived exactly like the Lord, with long dreadlocks, sleeping on the floor, eating very sparingly. In other words, he never assumed the position of king. He always remained a servant to the Lord. And when Lord Ramachandra came back to Ayodhya, Lakshman offered him all respect and was relieved that the Lord had come back. He never entertained once the idea that he could replace his brother and become the king, because he's the servant. So we learn how to serve Krishna by understanding Lord Balaram and his special position as what's called the first plenary expansion of the Lord. There's no difference between Balaram and Krishna, except that Balaram has sort of a light complexion and Krishna has a dark complexion. But otherwise, there's no other difference. And Balaram is the only person that can dance with the gopis also. Nobody else can dance with the gopis. He has his own set of gopis that he dances with. So Krishna is directly the original personality of Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Balaram is the first plenary expansion of the Lord, or first plenary manifestation of the Lord. And from Balaram comes the first phalanx of plenary expansions of Vasudeva, Sankarsan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. And Lord Krishna is Vasudeva, and Balarama is Sankarsan. And then comes Narayana from this first Chaturvyuha, and then from Narayana, the second Chaturvyuha, again with Vasudeva, Sankarsan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna, and then from the second Chaturvyuha comes the entire Vishnu incarnations of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And then from Kshirodakshay Vishnu comes many different incarnations, or pastime incarnations of the Lord. such as Matsya, Nashinga, and so forth, Vamana. So we see that Balaram is constantly helping the Lord in every way. And he's what's called the first Vilasa expansion. So there's two categories of expansions from Krishna. There's Prakasa and Vilasa. So the Prakasa expansions of the Lord are the Lord himself who multiplies himself in many, many expansions in order to please his direct devotees. So when the Lord was in Dwarka, he manifested these Prakasa expansions. These are, it's exactly the same form of the Lord, but in hundreds and thousands of expansions in order to be with each of the queens in Dwarka. And Narada Muni, when he went to Dwarka, he had heard about this, and he couldn't believe it, actually. So he went there, and he visited Rukmini and Krishna, and then Satyabhama and Krishna, and he visited all the over 16,000 palaces where Krishna was present simultaneously, and he had different wives, over 16,108 wives. He had 10 children with each one, and Narada Muni was astounded. He couldn't believe it, because the Lord was exactly the same Lord in each palace, with different wives, with different sets of children, and doing different things. So Mahayogis are able to expand themselves 10 times, but each one of those expansions of the Mahayogi do exactly the same thing at the same time. Whereas Krishna, he can expand himself infinitely and be doing different things with different sets of people, and it is beyond the understanding of ordinary living beings. That's why Lord Chaitanya presented the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. The Lord is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different. So Balaram is called the Vilasa expansion, because the Vilasa expansion, so there's Prakasa and Vilasa. The Vilasa expansions of the Lord have some little difference. Like, for example, Balaram has a light complexion. Krishna has a dark complexion. But there's no difference between Balaram and Krishna. It's exactly the same person. But Balaram acts, as I said, as the spiritual master, and he is always helping Krishna in all forms, in 5 major forms. And we'll explain that in a second. So the Vilasa expansions also are like Lord Narayana. Krishna has 2 arms, Narayana has 4 arms. So these are expansions of the Lord for his pastimes. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 1, verse number 20, it says that Shri Balarama, the counterpart of Lord Shri Krishna, is also considered a human child born of another wife of Shri Vasudeva. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Shri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos, and in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading, as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, and that his deeds are all superhuman. he lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, in other words, Nanda Maharaj and Yasodamaya, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisharanya describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the Supreme Almighty Personality of Godhead. See, this is where things become very confusing, but devotees can understand this. The materialistic people, they think that Krishna is an ordinary human being like us, because he has 2 arms and 1 head and 2 legs. And he first appeared as Narayana to Mother Devaki and Vasudeva. And then Devaki basically was stressed. She said, oh my God, if Kamsa comes, he'll see that my son is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And she prayed that he change himself into a human form as an ordinary child. And of course, Krishna did. Therefore, most people think, well, Narayana is God and Krishna is just some kind of exceptional human being. But that's not a fact. The 2-armed form of the Lord is the original form, or Sham Sundar, from which everything else emanates, including Narayana. However, it is bewildering to ordinary people. Like one time, one lady told me in France, she said, I can't accept what your guru says. So we were a little surprised, and we said, what do you mean? What is it that you don't accept? He said, I can't accept the fact that God is a little child, playing like a little baby or a young, very, very young child. It's just not God. God is an old guy, and he's got white whiskers, and he has all types of wisdom. How can he be a little baby? You see. So this is bewildering to materialistic people. Therefore, only those persons who carefully listen every day to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees can understand these things. Otherwise, when they hear about Krishna's pastimes, they're incredulous. They can't believe it. They think, oh, these are nice stories, but it's not possible that someone can be like this. And therefore, only devotees genuine devotees can understand this and have faith that all the things that Vyasadeva is describing and Sukadeva Goswami are describing are factual. And Krishna speaks about himself also in the Bhagavad Gita. So if we don't listen every day to the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by genuine devotees, we will be misled also, even though we chant Hare Krishna. And there are many people that join Krishna consciousness, but yet think they know everything. In actuality, they know very little, because they don't listen carefully every day. The Bhagavatam is all glorious information about Krishna, and Krishna speaks himself about himself in the Bhagavad Gita. So these are the 2 most important Vedic scriptures. They encompass the exact kernel of truth of who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here is an explanation that even Krishna's mother and father, like Vasudeva and Devaki, or Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda, when they saw Krishna perform and Balaram perform superhuman acts that no one else can actually emulate, they did not really pay attention to it that much. Like, for example, when Krishna lifted up Govardhan Hill, it was Pinky, and he was only 7 years old. The cowherd men thought, oh, we should help him. He's just a little boy. So they put their canes up on the as if they were going to help him keep Govardhan up. So you see, that is a type of illusion. It's called Yogamaya. But that Yogamaya, by the way, there's no Yogamaya in Vaikuntha, and there's no Yogamaya in the Brahmajyoti. There's only Yogamaya in the material world or the spiritual world, or Goloka. That's one difference between Vaikuntha and Goloka. In Goloka, everyone worships Krishna with, in Vaikuntha, everyone worships Krishna with awe and reverence. But in Vaikuntha, Goloka, Vrindavana, because of Yogamaya, everyone doesn't consider Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They actually believe him to be the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda. And therefore, they become very intimate with him. So Yogamaya sometimes manifests Krishna, sometimes covers Krishna, so that the karmis cannot see him. And Yogamaya is the illusion by which people come closer to Krishna. But Mahamaya, or Durga Mata, is the illusion by which people go away from Krishna. And she's present in the material world as the warden of the prison house called the material world, and she keeps people in illusion. But the illusion by which they go away from Krishna, and then to show them that they've made a big mistake, she makes them suffer tremendously until they realize maybe something is wrong. I don't understand what really is happening to me. And if they're fortunate enough to meet genuine devotees, then they can understand what's happening. But most people are not that lucky to meet genuine devotees and to recognize them and to listen to them. So therefore, they just go on birth after birth suffering in the material world, thinking that they can dominate and enjoy the material world independent of God or Krishna. So this is very serious illusion in the material world. In the spiritual world, the illusory forces of Yogamaya brings people closer to Krishna, and where they can express spontaneous love for the Lord, something that's not possible in Vaikuntha even. In Vaikuntha, there is love for the Lord, but it's as a subordinate. Whereas in Goloka, the devotees actually think they're superior to the Lord. It's not because of false ego, it's because of their extreme love for the Lord. And Krishna appreciates it. He likes to be controlled by his devotees. Just like when he seemed to be a helpless little two-armed child, Vasudeva picked him up and cuddled him, and mysteriously all the jails or the prison bars and everything opened up, and all the guards and everyone were asleep, and Vasudeva was able to walk out of the prison of Kamsa holding Krishna in his arms. And as he approached the Yamuna River, miraculously the river divided, and there was a pathway through it. And as he was walking over that pathway, crossing the river without the water interfering with him, Yamunaji wanted to have darshan of Krishna, and especially have the mercy of his lotus feet. So she, with a wave, she took the Lord away from Vasudeva. And Vasudeva was devastated. And he thought that, he would never see his child again. And he basically was praying, ardently, please let my child come back. See? So Krishna put himself in a subordinate position to Vasudeva because of Vasudeva's love for him. And this is something that people can't understand, how God can accept a subordinate position to his devotees. And actually, Krishna appreciates that more than being the supreme Purusha and the protector and controller of everything. So then, of course, Krishna came back, Yamunaji gave Krishna back to Vasudeva, and then he continued on his way and exchanged his little son for the little girl that was born to Yasodamai. So all these pastimes are incomprehensible to materialistic people and even to some devotees, because unless we regularly hear and understand the transcendental activities of the Lord, Janma Karma Chime Divyam Evam Yoveti Tatvata Tyakva Deham Punarjanma Naitimam Eti Sarjana. One who can understand the mysterious and transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again, but goes back to Godhead. So this knowledge of Krishna, which has to be assimilated little by little, day after day, it's an incremental thing. You cannot absorb all this knowledge right away. And actually, it's Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. We should be hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day. And Prabhupada actually wanted 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening. That's the only way we can become free of the influence of Maya, because our diseases we forget. And our diseases, another disease is we like to be independent. And another disease is they were attached to sex life. And another disease is we like to change things. And it's very easy to go down that slippery slope of changing things or misinterpreting things and feeling empowered and independent and not always understanding our real position as a servant of the Lord. So that's one point. Then another point, in the first canto, 11th chapter, verse number 17, Prabhupada describes Baladeva. He says, he is the divine son of Vasudeva by his wife Rohini. He is also known as Rohini Nandana, the beloved son of Rohini. He was also entrusted to Nanda Maharaj along with his mother, Rohini, when Vasudeva embraced imprisonment by mutual agreement with Kamsa. So Nanda Maharaj is also the foster father of Baladeva along with Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna and Lord Baladeva were constant companions from their very childhood, although they were stepbrothers. He is the plenary manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore he is as good and powerful as Lord Krishna. He belongs, meaning Balarama, belongs to the Vishnu Tattva, the principle of Godhead. He attended the Swayamvara ceremony of Draupadi along with Sri Krishna. When Subhadra was kidnapped by Arjuna by the organized plan of Sri Krishna, Baladeva was very angry with Arjuna and wanted to kill him at once. Sri Krishna, for the sake of his dear friend Arjuna, fell at the feet of Lord Baladeva and implored him not to be so angry. Sri Baladeva was thus satisfied. Similarly, he was once very angry with the Kauravas, and he wanted to throw their whole city, Hastinapur, into the depths of the Yamuna. But the Kauravas satisfied him by surrendering unto his divine lotus feet. He was actually the 7th son of Devaki prior to the birth of Lord Krishna, but by the will of the Lord, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini to escape the wrath of Kamsa. His other name is therefore Sankarsan, who is also the plenary portion of Sri Baladeva. Because he is as powerful, all this is about Baladeva, he is as powerful as Lord Krishna and can bestow spiritual power to the devotees. He is therefore known as Baladeva. Now this is very important. If we want spiritual power, we have to surrender to the spiritual master. And Baladeva is the quintessential original spiritual master. And therefore his name is, the word Bala does not mean material strength, it means spiritual strength. Of course, people like Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, they misinterpret the name of Baladeva, and they say, don't eat tulsi, eat eggplant, eat brinjal. That will give you strength, right? And you need to have strength in order to be strong in this world. And we need to have strong muscles and good abs in order to defeat the enemies. Well, this is the misinterpretation of Baladeva. Bala is talking about spiritual strength by which you can control sex desire, you can control anger, you can control envy and lust and greed and illusion and all these negative things. That's real strength, right? So, therefore, he continues, he is therefore known as Baladeva. In the Vedas also it is enjoined that no one can know the Supreme Lord without being favored by Baladeva. Bala means spiritual strength, not physical. Some less intelligent persons interpret Bala as the strength of the body. So he's talking about Vivekananda and so forth. Some less intelligent persons interpret Bala as the strength of the body. But no one can have spiritual realization by physical strength. Physical strength ends with the end of the physical body, but spiritual strength follows the spirit soul to the next transmigration, and therefore the strength obtained by Baladeva is never wasted. The strength is eternal, and thus Baladeva is the original spiritual master of all devotees. So if we learn by regular hearing and associating with devotees and engaging in devotional service and taking Mahaprasadam, and basically our real pleasure in life is this hearing and chanting in the association of devotees and taking Mahaprasadam to our full satisfaction and dancing in ecstasy in the Sankirtan party, then Krishna reveals to us this knowledge of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's not an academic thing. You can study it all you want, you can pass tests, but you will not understand properly. You'll give false interpretations to it that are accommodating to one's weaknesses. However, one can become very, very firmly fixed up in Krishna consciousness by following correctly the sadhana bhakti and being very cautious to not deviate even slightly from the path of pure devotion. So, therefore, it says that the strength obtained from Lord Baladev, spiritual strength, is eternal, and thus Baladev is the original spiritual master of all devotees. Sri Baladev was also a class friend of Lord Sri Krishna as a student of Sandipani Muni. In his childhood, he killed many asuras, or demons, along with Sri Krishna, and specifically he killed the Dhenukasura at Talavana. During the Kurukshetra battle, he remained neutral, and he tried his best not to bring about the fight. He was in favor of Duryodhana, but still he remained neutral. When there was a club fight between Duryodhana and Bhimasena, he was present on the spot. He was angry at Bhimasena when the latter struck Duryodhana on the thigh or below the belt, and he wanted to retaliate the unfair action. Lord Krishna saved Bhima from Baladeva's wrath, but he left the place at once, or Baladeva left the place at once, being disgusted at Bhimasena, and after his departure, Duryodhana fell to the ground to meet his death. The funeral ceremony of Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, was performed by Baladeva, as he was the maternal uncle. It was impossible to be performed by any one of the Pandavas, who were all overwhelmed with grief. At the last stage, he departed from this world by producing a great white snake from his mouth, and thus he was carried by Seshanaga in the shape of a serpent. So, when people hear this, they think, "Wow, this is mythology. This is not the fact." You know, how can he exhibit a snake from his mouth and then go back to the spiritual world? So all these things are purposely, let's say, put in the Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam in order to trip up the atheists and the materialists who are prone to doubt the Shastras. Also, one final point, Balaram assumes 5 forms to serve Lord Krishna. They are such as in his form as Balaram, as Sankarsan, as Seshanaga, as Mahavishnu, and Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and Shirodaksha Vishnu. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says, may Sri Nityananda Ram, who is incarnation of Lord Balaram, be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarsan, Sheshanaga, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karna ocean, Garbha ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions, and the portions of his plenary portions. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami has recorded this verse in his diary to offer his respectful obeisances to Lord Nityananda Prabhu. This verse also appears in the 7th of the first 14 verses of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Lord Balarama is the original Sankarsan. He assumes 5 other forms to serve Lord Krishna. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna, and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. He executes the orders of Lord Krishna in the work of creation, and in the form of Lord Shesha, he serves Krishna in various ways. Prabhupada writes, according to expert opinion, Balarama, as the chief of the original quadruple forms, or Chaturvyuha, is also the original Sankarsana. Balarama, the first expansion of Krishna, expands himself in 5 forms: Maha Sankarsana, Karanab Dishai, Garbhodakshayi, and Shirodakshayi, and Shesha. These 5 plenary portions are responsible for both the spiritual and material cosmic manifestations. In these 5 forms, Lord Balaram assists Lord Krishna in his activities. The first 4 of these forms are responsible for the cosmic manifestations, whereas Shesha is responsible for personal service to the Lord. Shesha is called Ananta, or unlimited, because he assists the personality of Godhead in his unlimited expansions by performing an unlimited variety of services. Okay, so now we see the unique position of Lord Balaram. Sri Balarama is the servitor Godhead who serves Lord Krishna in all affairs of existence and knowledge. Lord Nityananda Prabhu, who is the same servitor Godhead, Balarama, performs the same service to Lord Gauranga by constant association. In all forms, he, meaning Balarama, tastes the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. That same Balarama is Lord Nityananda, the companion of Lord Gaurachandra. So, this is some information about Balaram today. What the takeaway of this is that he is the most intimate servant of the Lord, who helps him in every different way in all his pastimes, so that his every wish is accomplished. And he is the original spiritual master. We should take complete shelter of Lord Balaram and always pray to him to give us the strength to continue in Krishna consciousness and not deviate in the least sense. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Balaram Jayanti ki jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So because this is Sunday, we have a chance to hear about Lord Balarama all day long today. And it's very good to read the Krishna book today and hear about Krishna and Balaram's pastimes. And we should have volunteers reading all day for the pleasure of the Lord and for the pleasure of the devotees. So you can get a sign up, and we'll read. I'll give the parts of the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Krishna book, where we can hear about the Lord Balaram and Lord Nityananda and their exemplary, extraordinary pastimes with the Lord. Hare Krishna.